Hello everyone. OOPS concept is one of the most important and widely used programming paradigm in software development. To understand the actual working of most of the programming languages such as C++, Java, Python, and JavaScript, we need to know the concepts of object-oriented programming. Now, many of our students have suggested that we bring up a video on one of the most important OOPS concept named as polymorphism and explain its working. So we at Great Learning decided to come up with a video on understanding and analyzing the concept of polymorphism in Java. So without wasting much time, let's begin. Before we get started, I want to introduce you to Great Learning Academy, a free initiative by Great Learning. You can access over 200 plus courses with 1000 plus hours of free content on trending high demand domains absolutely free. Register now to complete the course and get your free certificate of completion. Check out the link in the description of the video below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing. So make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video, any queries or suggestions, and I will respond to your comments. So now that we are in our agenda slide, let's look upon what all topics we are going to cover in this particular video. So at the very beginning, we are going to start with the first topic, which is what is polymorphism. So we are going to understand in a very real world example, like what is the meaning of this word polymorphism. We are not going to talk about any Java programming or any syntax in here in this topic. The next topic, we are going to understand the all real world examples related to polymorphism so that you will be easily understood about this concept. The next topic we are going to cover is types of polymorphism. But we'll also now understand polymorphism in a Java way. That means in a Java programming, right? So then we are going to see what are the different types of polymorphism and how do we achieve it? How do we write it? The next is practical implementation. So the first three topics are nothing but theoretical knowledge, right? But now we are going to do the practical implementation. So I will walk you through Eclipse and we will do some programs. We will see how these different types of polymorphism works. The next topic is nothing but the advantages. Obviously, if you're learning something, you should know that concept advantage, right? What is the advantage of that particular concept which you're using? And the next, but the last is nothing but your characteristics. So we are going to understand what are the different characteristics of using polymorphism concept in your programming, right? So let's get started with the very first topic, which is what is polymorphism. So let's understand what is this polymorphism, right? Now, polymorphism is a very, you can see, is a very long word, right? And if I divide this word into two parts, so there's coming poly, right? And poly's meaning is nothing but many, or we can say numerous, right? But when you talk about morphism means forms, right? And when you combine these two words, it's nothing but numerous forms or many forms. So anything in the real world which is having a numerous forms or many forms, that is what is nothing but your polymorphism, right? That particular thing is behaving like a polymorphism, okay? Now in Java programming language also, we have some concepts where we use this kind of concept, that is many forms. So we write an object or a function or a method or a variable in many forms, and that is what is nothing but polymorphism concept, okay? But we are not sure that which particular thing we write it in many forms, right? So that is what we are going to see in the practical implementation and in the types of polymorphism, okay? Right now, just understand that polymorphism is divided into two words, poly and morphism. Poly means many and morphism means forms, right? Okay. Now let's see some pointers which I have written here to show you, basically to make you understand each point, what is it, right? Poly means numerous and morphs means forms. Polymorphism means innumerable forms, right? It can be in many forms. Polymorphism is one of the most significant features of object-oriented programming, right? And it is a process that performs a single action in different ways. So it performs the same thing, but in different ways, okay? How?
We are going to talk about that later. It refers to the ability of an object to take different forms of object. Okay, keep this particular point in your mind, because once you'll do the programming, you will be again, understanding this particular sentence. Now we are coming into the examples of polymorphism, because we now know that many forms or numerous forms is nothing but polymorphism, right? But what are the real world examples? So if I talk about a woman or a girl, right? And you can see a woman behaves in a very numerous forms, right? So they can act like a mother, they can act like a college student also, and sometimes they are a working woman, and sometimes they are also a sister, right? Or a daughter, correct? So one particular woman is having different forms, and similarly it goes for men also, right? If take an example of me, so I am an employee, right? But if I consider about my home, then I am a son, right? And I'm also a student, or I can say that I'm also a brother of my elder brother, right? So that is how it works. We have different forms. If you talk about any other example, so let's look at this. So if you look at this, the body organs, right? In our body, every particular part inside our body is an organ, right? It's just that we have different functionality of those organs, right? So we have brain, we have kidney, we have heart, we have lungs, liver, stomach. All are nothing but organs, but they have different forms. You can see brain is something looking like this, kidney is something looking like this. But what is the working of all these organs? It makes our body function, it makes our body work, right? So the function, that means the working is same, but the shape or the form is different, right? So there are many forms, but the working is same, correct? One more example we'll see, and this one example is really very interesting because we are dealing with this right now, and that is nothing but the coronavirus, right? So you can see coronavirus is also in very different forms, right? If you talk about 229E, so if you don't know, there are several other coronavirus forms which is having different medical names, right? So if you look at this in the screen, we have different forms of coronavirus. All these are called as coronavirus. Same symptoms will happen, same thing will happen, but they are different in their own. They have different forms in their own, right? So this is a very good example if you talk about a recent trend, right? So this is a very good example to explain what is polymorphism, and a very good example to understand it, right? But still we have not gone to the Java programming language. We have only understood the the upper layer, like what is polymorphism, that's it, right? So now what we'll do is we'll jump into the Java programming language, and then we'll understand what the different types of polymorphism in Java. So now let's see what are the different types of polymorphism in Java, right? Now you can see polymorphism is achieved in Java by two ways. One is method overloading and method overriding. Now what is this method overloading and method overriding, right? To understand this, there's a very easy example which we'll see in some time, and we'll also do the practical implementation. But before that, you should also know that method overloading is a concept, okay? But when you talk about the types of polymorphism, compile time polymorphism is the name of the polymorphism which actually acquires this concept, that is method overloading. Similarly, there is runtime polymorphism which actually acquires this concept, which is method overriding, okay? So please be clear about these four terms, okay? There are two types of polymorphism, compile time and runtime polymorphism, but they acquire several concepts. That is what I have written in the bracket, okay? Now, first of all, what we'll understand is the concept, the method overloading and method overriding concept, and then we will try to understand the different types of polymorphism, okay? Perfect. Now method overloading, what is it? As you can see, the name suggests method overloading. That means when you're overloading your method, right? Now how we can actually overload our method? If you know what is method, basically we write it once and we use it anytime we want, right? That is what is a method. Sometimes we also call it as function, correct? So it is defined as a process that can create multiple methods of the same name. So there will be multiple methods let's say these are the multiple methods and they have the same name. So let's say add. All these three methods have the same name, add, in the same class. So they are in the same class. Okay. And all the methods work in different ways. Oh, so this is the difference, right? That means this add method will work in a different way. This method will work in a different way. And this method will work in a different way. But the name of the method is same, right? Again, you'll be in confusion that what is this? Then what is the meaning of keeping the name as same, right? Let's see, we'll understand. Method overloading occurs when there is more than one method of the same name in the class. So we have more than one method of the same name in the class. So this is what is method overloading. Okay. Now what it does, let's see that. If a class contains more than one method with the same name, but difference in parameter. Now this is the most important point. Difference in parameter, or that is number of argument. So basically we have different methods. If suppose this is the class addition, we have different methods. We have one method which is add, and we have again another method which is add. The name is same. You can see the names are same, but there's a difference in the parameter, that is the number of argument. You can see this parameter, there are two parameters for this one, but there are three parameters for this one. And similarly, if you look at the argument, we have three arguments here, but we have only two arguments in this one. So this is where the difference comes in, right? So now it can be of order of arguments, it can be types of argument. That means here you can see the type of the parameter is int everywhere. It can happen that it can have int double, or all the different methods will have different types of data types, right? It can happen so like that, right? Okay. Now, how this will work, how this particular program is going to work, let's see about that. Now we already know that, wherever we have the main method, that is from where the execution starts. So if I go to the main method, system.out.println addition.add, and you can see the three arguments are there. So obviously from the class addition, it is calling the method add with the three arguments. So obviously this is going to go to the second method of add, which is having three parameters, right? Obviously it won't go to our first method because that is only having two parameters, right? And we are giving three arguments. So it's obvious that it will go to the three argument, right? Now, if you talk about the second line, system.out.println addition.add 2, 3, that is only having two argument. So it is directly going only to my first method, which is having the two parameters, right? So it means that how many arguments you are giving, it will check that particular method, whether you have given such kind of method which is having that amount of parameter. If not, then that particular calling will not happen, right? That particular statement will not work. But if you have a function with that particular parameters, that amount of parameter, then obviously it's going to call that and it's going to print whatever you are printing, right? Now, if you can see this program, this is what is overloading. And why it is overloading? Because we have two functions with the same name, and that is why it is overloaded. It can have four functions with the same name, but different parameter. So methods are getting overloaded, right? That is why it is named as method overloading. Correct? This is how it works. So the output of this particular example will be what? So you can see the three arguments, 2 plus 3 plus 4. So obviously it's going to give me 9. And then if you look at the second method, which is 3 and 2, so it's going to give me 5, right? Okay. Now let's move to the next one, which is method overriding. Let's understand why it is named as method overriding, right? And not overloading. Let's understand this. Method overriding is defined as a process when the subclass. Now, when you look at this word, that means there comes the concept of inheritance, right? That means there will be two classes and one class will be extending or inheriting from the parent class, right? or a child class has the same method as declared in the parent class. So here what will happen, basically parent class will have one method, let's say add, and the child class, which is actually extending from the parent, will also have the same method, right? You can see this is one class parent and this is another class child, which is extending from the parent, and both the classes are having the same method. The name is also same, right? This is what is nothing but method overriding concept. Now let's see how this works basically. There are some rules which we should know before looking into the example. So method must have the same name as in parent class. Whatever method you are writing in the child class will have the same name as in the parent class. Method must have the same parameter. Now this is what is very important. In overloading, we were having different parameters, same method name, but in the same class, right? But in overriding, what is there? There are two classes. One is parent, one is subclass. And in both the classes, we have same method name with same parameter. These rules you need to understand before analyzing what is polymorphism, right? So this is one of the example of method overriding. Let's understand this, what is happening. Okay, so we have a class and we have another class which is extending the parent class. So this is fine. And this particular class is having a function or a method which we call it as demand. So it is very true that the child class should also have the same method name, and we have it. And the parameter is also same, that is default. There is no parameter as such, right? Now you can see we have also written as a comment defining the same method as in parent class. Now what we are doing, we are creating an object of our son class. Because we have created the object of our son class, which is obj, obj.demand will go where? Obj.demand will directly go to our son's class and will find whether the demand method is there or not. And you can see that there is a method demand, it is printing Apple iPhone. So obviously the printing will be Apple iPhone. This will be the output. What will happen to this? Nothing will happen to this. If the object is created of father, obviously Android phone will be printed, right? Now, if you have not understood this, let's move it into the Eclipse and let's see the same program. How does it work? So as you can see, now we are on Eclipse and you can see the program is already written. And as you can see, I am writing the son class because it is having the main methods. I have written the name of the file as son.java. Okay. And you can see it is having the same function, right? Demand. And here also father is also having the demand, right? Now, if I run this particular program, what's going to happen? Basically, it will print me Apple iPhone. Why? Because the object which is created is of son and we are calling the demand method. So it is directly printing Apple iPhone. Now, why it is named as overriding? Have you ever thought of that? Why we call it as overriding? Because as you can see, this particular method which we have written demand, right? This is there in both the classes. Now, obviously, depending on which class object you have created, one particular method will be overridden, right? Overridden means what? It will be covered. So the father demand method is here, is covered or overridden with the son's demand method, right? And that is why the name method overriding. Okay. Now that we have understood what is method overriding and method overloading, we will understand the difference between the polymorphism, compile time and runtime. Now, see, as I told you, method overloading and method overriding is a concept. But when you talk about polymorphism, compile time polymorphism is what? Let's see. Compile time polymorphism in Java is also known as static polymorphism. Okay. In this process, the call to the method is resolved at compile time. Now, if you remember the particular program of method overloading, whenever we are executing that particular code, what will happen? The execution or the resolving of that particular program will happen in compile time. Okay, if you remember, there are two things, compile time and runtime. right? Compile time is that time when the program is getting compiled, and runtime is that time when the particular program is getting run, right? So in method overloading, whenever you execute any program of such kind, it actually resolves everything in the compile time, and that is why the name compile time polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism is achieved through method overloading. That is the concept. And this type of polymorphism can also be achieved through operator overloading. That means we can actually use the operators overloaded. Okay, so we can use many operators and we can term it as operator overloading. We'll see one example at the last also. Method overloading is when a class has multiple methods with same name, but the number, types, or order of parameter is different, right? Java allows the user freedom to use the same name for various functions as long as it can distinguish between them by the type and the number of parameters. This whole thing, this whole 6 points which we have just now read, right? These all we have understood when we were learning the method overloading program, right? And that is what is compile time polymorphism. Now, when it comes to runtime polymorphism, you can see it's the same thing, but the execution of method overriding program happens in runtime. And that is why it is called as runtime polymorphism. So runtime polymorphism in Java is also known as dynamic binding or dynamic method dispatch. In this process, the call to an overridden method is resolved dynamically at runtime rather than at compile time. And that is what is named as runtime polymorphism. Runtime polymorphism is achieved through method overriding, which we have seen. Method overriding is done when a child or a subclass has a method with the same name, parameters, and return type. These all things we have already, understood in the program of method overriding, right? So just have a look in the paragraph which is written here so that it will be much more clearer to you that what is runtime and what is compile time, right? So now that we have understood all these points, as you can see, it should be noted that runtime polymorphism can only be achieved through functions and not data members. Now this point is really very useful for you because you can see it's written, clearly mentioned that runtime polymorphism will be only achieved through functions and not data members. Let's have a look at one of the example that what does that sentence means, right? Now, if you look here in this particular example, runtime polymorphism can't be achieved by data members. Now see what I've done. So I have two classes, father and son, right? And there is no method. There is only one data member, which is age. For father also the same data member and for son also the same data member. The values are just different, right? Now, when we have created an object of son and we are printing the obj.age, now you can see what will happen. Let's see the result of this. Okay, now if you look here, it is printing 45, which is the father's age. But we have created the object of son, right? Then why is it printing the age of father, right? Because in runtime polymorphism or in method overriding, that only works with method and not with data members or variables. Okay, so it doesn't work with variables. Okay, this point you need to understand. Now, if some of the students you have confusion in this line, that what have you written, sir, here? Because you're creating an object of son, so you should write son3 obj equal to new son3. Why have you written father 3 obj equal to new son 3, right? Now see, this is what is called as upcasting. Okay, now what is upcasting? Upcasting means you're taking the help of father class to create the object of son's class. Okay, so it is similar like this one where you're creating the son's object, but here we are using the son's class only. We are not even here mentioning about father class, right? But in upcasting, we take a help of father and then we create the object. It is just like when you ask for a mobile phone from your father. So you ask it, that means you want his help, right? This is what is upcasting. Now this program is basically on data member, but let's see one more program based on method and upcasting. So you can see here we have the method, we have the upcasting, and we have the method again, correct? So let's see how this works. This will give me a correct output, which is the son's object, that is the son's method, which is Apple iPhone, right? Because we are working with method here. So now that we have seen these all examples of method overloading and method overriding, let's jump to the next topic, which is practical implementation. So some programs we will see how this overloading or overriding works with a bigger example, with a bigger picture, right? So for practical implementation, now we are in our Eclipse and we'll see some examples, some very big examples, so that we get a clear picture of what is this method overloading, method overriding, or we say static dynamic polymorphism, or we also say it as compile time polymorphism or runtime polymorphism, right? Let's see some examples. So first of all, we look at this example. As you can see, this is a runtime polymorphism example, which is method overriding. That means what will happen here is we'll have the inheritance picture, we'll have parent class, child class. Now here you can see that we don't have only parent or child, but we have sub-childs as well. So we have great grandfather, that is one class, and then we have the other class grandfather, which is extending from great grandfather, then father, which is extending from great grandfather, and we have son, which is extending from great grandfather. So which kind of inheritance is this? That is your work. You need to understand and analyze which particular inheritance is this, which type of inheritance is this, because all the child classes are inheriting from the main class, the parent class, right? Okay, now what we are doing here. So see, there are two ways of creating the object, which I also wanted to show you. You can see here, this particular program which is commented here, this is one way of creating the object. What we do, we write the main class, we create the object, and for which particular class we are going to create the object, that constructor we are writing grandfather1. So this obj is a object of grandfather1, right? Then if you want to create an object of other classes, other child classes or parent classes, then we do it in the similar way, right? But here you can see what is happening. We have now three different objects, obj, obj1, obj2, right? Now what will happen here? Basically, your memory allocations will be more. One memory will be assigned to obj, one memory will be assigned to obj1, and one memory will be assigned to obj2, which is a tedious task internally. Writing it is not a tedious thing, but internally, when it is saving a memory, it is acquiring much more space, right? And that is why what we do, we write it in this manner. Now have a look what we have done. Great grandfather 1 obj, and the same obj we have written here, obj equal to new grandfather 1. That means this statement we have divided into two parts. Okay, and we have written like this. Then we are calling it. Once that particular work is done, then we are creating the same object, but this time we are referencing it for father class and we are using the same object. Then again, what we are doing, we are using the same object, but this time we are referring it to our son class and we are using that to call the feature function, right? So this way what will happen, memory allocation will not be more, it will be much more lesser, right? We'll not have three separate memories, but we'll have only one memory of obj, one object, right? So this is how it works. Now, if you look at this grandfather 1, what is there in grandfather 1? We have nose and then father object. So it will print ears and then eyes, right? So let's see whether this particular program is giving me the same output or not. So if I run this particular application, you can see nose, ears and eyes, right? So this is one more a complicated example of method overriding. Now here we have used one type of inheritance, which I have told you to analyze and understand, right? You should write it in the comment that which kind of inheritance is this. But here in this test.java, we have written a particular same example, but with multi-level inheritance. So you can see great grandfather is the parent class, but these all child classes are not inheriting only with the parent. It is actually like a multi-level. So it's like level, great grandfather, then grandfather, then father, then son. And son is inheriting from father, father is inheriting from grandfather, grandfather is inheriting from great grandfather. This is how it is. So this is what is called as multi-level inheritance, right? Now the same program we have written, same things, and let's see what is the answer of this particular program. So why I'm showing you this? Because we can use method overriding in various types of inheritance, okay? And this is the example of that, okay? Now let's come to the example of overloading program. So you can see here, we have written one particular example and hence here inheritance will not come into picture. because this is overloading, right? What happens in overloading? We will have one class and we will have two same methods inside it. Now here you can see this is what is data type overloading. So you can see we have a method add. It is having a parameter, two parameter of integer type. But here we have a method add, the same name, but we have different data types. Okay, the quantity of the parameter is same. Here also we have two, here also we have two, but there is a difference. What is the difference? The data type, right? So it depends that while creating the object, how you are sending the argument. If you're sending 2034, it is an integer, so it will directly go to integer method. Next is 6.76, 4.56. So it's a double value or a float value, right? So it will go to this particular method. So this is how the program understand that what is happening. And this understanding will only happen in the compile time. And that is why it is named as compile time polymorphism, right? So I hope you understood this particular program also. And let's see what is the output of this. Obviously, it will add those two numbers. So 20, 34, 54, and these two are 11.32, right? Let's have a look at another kind of example. Now, if you look here, this we have already seen in the particular PPT, right? We have seen that there are two parameters, but here there are three parameters. Same thing will happen, right? These three argument will go to this method and this one will go to this particular method, right? Perfect. Now let's see the last example, the last practical implementation. And this is a very good example of polymorphism. So if you look here, we have class and then we have inheritance. That means this example is of overriding. Let's see whether we have the same methods. We have the same methods, local, location, and famous for. You can see location and famous for. Again, location and famous for. And again, location and famous for. Right? So we have four things. We have a parent class hill station. We have the child classes Manali, Mussoorie, and Gulmarg. All these three child classes are extending with hill station parent class. And we have a different statements written here about that, right? If we come into the main method, we have created four objects. One is of hill station, that is the parent class, A. M is the object of Manali. MU is the object of Mussoorie. And G is the object of Gulmarg. And then we are calling all the functions of those particular child classes, right? So obviously what will happen for A, that means for hill station, what is the location? Location is. That will get printed. What is the value for famous for? Famous for. That will be printed, right? So let's execute this and let me show you what is the output of this particular program. So this is what it is printing. Obviously there will be a bigger input because we have a lot of things to print here. So you can see these are the printing for hill station class. This is getting printed because of the Manali child class. This is of Mussoorie child class and this is of Gulmarg child class, right? Perfect. So we have now understood the practical implementations of polymorphism. Now let's look at some of the advantages of polymorphism and let's understand what are these. So we have already seen some programs. We have done some programs. Let's see what are the advantages. Obviously, the reusability of the code, because we can reuse the code anytime. Why? Because we are playing with functions and functions' main role is to reuse the code, right? So the classes that are written, tested and implemented can be reused multiple times. This in turn saves a lot of time for the developer or the coder. Also, the code can be changed without affecting the original code, right? The next is a single variable can be used to store multiple data values. We are using the same name method. We are using the same parameters. So single variable will be enough to write a program. With lesser lines of code, it becomes easier for coders or programmers to debug the code. The shorter the program, the lesser time it will take, right? And it will be much more easier. So these are some of the advantages of polymorphism. Now let's look at the last topic, which is characteristics of polymorphism. What are the different characteristics of polymorphism? So if you talk about characteristic, the very first point comes into our mind is cohesion. The second is internal operator overloading, and the third one is polymorphic variable or parameter. Now, what are these characteristics? How does it happen when we do polymorphism? Let's look at that deeply. So first one is cohesion. Let's see what is this. Cohesion deals with implicitly converting one type of object into a new object of a different kind. Understand this statement as it is really very important for you. Converting one type of object into a new object of different kind. This is done automatically to prevent type errors in the code. Let's see one program. How does it happen? So if you look at this particular class, we have public static void main. We have double area equal to this particular value. Then we are printing the area, right? So whatever will be the value that will be printed, right? But now have a look. String s equal to happy and int x equal to 5. String word equal to s plus x. Now see, s, if you look upon, this is what? This is a string. And int x, x is what? Integer. What we are doing here, we are adding these two, right? So coercion is what? Converting one type of object into a new object of a different kind. These two are of different kind. But when we are adding it, this will result me what? If you add this particular s plus x, what you will get here in the word? You will get a concatenation result. That means happy 5, right? That is what you will get. So what we are doing here is we have written in string and integer, and at last we are getting in string, right? So converting one type of object into a new object of a different kind. This is what is coercion, okay? This happens many times when you do polymorphism, and this is a characteristic of it, okay? Next is nothing but internal operator overloading. Let's see what is this. And this is a really easy thing to understand. An operator or symbol behaves in one or more ways. If you talk about the plus symbol, this is also an addition symbol, and this is also used for concatenation, right? So one operator can be used for many different ways, right? Now, if you look at examples, we'll show you. If you look here, although Java does not support user-defined operator overloading, where the user can define how an operator works for different operands, there are few instances where Java internally overloads operator. And one of the example of that is plus. Let's see. So in case of plus, it is used for addition and also for concatenation. Similarly, operators like this not one, the and the or, you can see these are operator overloaded because it is used in logical also and bitwise operations also, right? So if you look at the example of this, if you see here, we have again two statements, two variables s and s1, right? And two variables x and y. But here we have the integer and here we have this string. So if you're adding this string, obviously this plus will work as a concatenation. But here the plus will work as an addition. Why? Because the different type of data types are there, right? So it manages like that. This is what is operator overloading, right? The next characteristic and the last one is polymorphic variables or parameters. So in Java, the object or instance variables represent the polymorphic variables. This is because any object variable of a class can have a relationship with their own classes and subclasses. Here it means the inheritance, right? So what is the meaning of it? Now, if you look at this example, the object or instance variable represent the polymorphic variables. So if you look at this class shape and this class triangle, it is extending. That means the display function is also same in these two classes, right? Here it is printing a shape and here it is printing I am a triangle, correct? So now you can see here, if we create an object of triangle, obviously if I'm using that object of triangle to call display function, it will print me I am a triangle. At the same time, if I create an object of shape, then what happens? It will call the display function of the shape class. So it will print a shape, right? So polymorphic variables or polymorphic parameters objects depend on this, right? So any object variables of a class can have an inheritance relationship with their own classes and subclasses. And this is what is also a characteristic of polymorphism, right? So these were the concepts and ideas about polymorphism. So as you can see, the main method is created. We have created the shape object, right? So obj is the child of the shape class, right? And you can see when we are calling the display method, obviously it will print a shape. And then if you're creating the object of triangle class, you can see the display function will call this particular method, which will print I am a triangle, right? So these were all the topics and the concepts related to polymorphism. I hope you have understood basically the concepts and ideas about polymorphism, right? Now we'll just summarize what all things we have covered in this particular video. So we started with different examples of polymorphism in a real world example way, and then we have moved into the practical implementations, types of polymorphism. We have understood various ways of polymorphism, different examples we have seen in Eclipse, and we have also understood the advantages and characteristics. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have understood clearly the concept of polymorphism, and I hope you will not get difficulty now understanding and working with this particular OOPS concept. Thank you so much for watching the video. I'll meet you really soon.
I want to introduce you to Great Learning Academy, a free initiative by Great Learning. You can access over 200 plus courses with 1000 plus hours of free content on trending high demand domains absolutely free. Register now to complete the course and get your free certificate of completion. Check out the link in the description of the video below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video any queries or suggestions, and I will respond to your comments.